Welcome to the Three Moons, Three Souls podcast with host Jacqueline Burke. Today's special guest is Charlene Crozier.
Welcome, Charlene. Thank you for joining us on our podcast. How are you today?
Thank you. I am well. I am excited to be here. I am so grateful that you reached out and I have the opportunity to spend the afternoon and chat with you.
Oh, that's wonderful. We're so glad that you're here. I've wanted to chat with you for so long. It seems like it's been forever. Um, so what I wanted to ask you, and I've been asking a lot of the ladies that have been on, is who inspired you as a child?
Oh, who inspired me? Without question, my parents.
Ah,
They gave me strength, love, and support, and continue to grow to despite adversity. And so I think my parents are definitely my biggest inspiration.
oh, that's good. Are you originally from Alberta?
I've always lived in Alberta. I moved around a lot in Alberta.
Oh,
Um,
good.
but yeah, it's again, it allows me to have that growth of being able to ebb and flow with the flow, right? And not, and I know the people in my life are the people in my life for a reason. And yeah, there's lots that has been taught by bouncing around a little bit. So, but
Yeah.
always Alberta. I love Alberta.
Oh,
So,
that's good. So you can accept a change very well then. You're used
yeah,
to
ex
it.
my soul definitely loves being here in Sundre and close to the
Okay.
mountains. So, yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's beautiful, the mountains. You feel like you're just right on the base of it, don't you? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Um, so can you tell me a little bit about when you were a child, what your dreams were?
My dreams, oh my goodness. When I was a child, I wanted to be a marine biologist. I
Oh,
think
wow.
as a farm child with a VHS and not really watching anything else, I watched way too many Free Willy over and over, and I wanted to be a marine biologist. Um, then I edged into a legal assistant right before one of my instructors and teachers that I had in high school asked if I would help with a special ed child that didn't have funding in her class. And so I ventured for a while actually into 13 years of it as a educational assistant with special needs children. So before I ventured into holistic practitioner now.
Oh, that's amazing. I love
Yeah.
following your pages. They're
Oh, thank
yeah,
you.
they bring such peace.
I
So what brought you to your career?
What brought me to my career? I think the biggest part was just my own healing journey, right? Working with my own traumas and working through some of my shadow side of things. And I think for the biggest part was the aha moment or the light bulb moment of when I was doing all of this deep diving for myself, the realization that all of the years ever since I was a child, feeling off and feeling weird and feeling things within my physical body, when I was around other people, there was a reason, and it was an opportunity and a gift, if I so choose, to hold space for others. And I shifted, and I haven't turned back. And yeah, I keep diving in my gifts and talents, if we'll call them that, continue to grow even more. And for that, I am so grateful for. And yeah, it's something that lights me up for sure.
Oh, yeah. So, along your journey, getting to where you are right now with your career, who were maybe some of the mentors that you worked with or taught you or mentored you?
I've had quite a few mentors over the years. I do a lot of reading, a lot of listening. I probably on the go have like six self-help books on the go. I pick up and I intuitively read, so I pick it up. I open the book to what chapter I need, or even if it's in the middle of the chapter, and then I just start reading. And so I think that part of it, I'm grateful for a lot of mentors as well as my spiritual mentors, right? There's a lot of time spent in meditation and channeling and getting those messages and those knowings that come from my gut, my heart, right? So yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's amazing. Your spiritual mentors. Did you find that at all like scary when you're in your younger years, like as a child?
I don't think that I found my guides scary. I grew up with my mom being very open to
Oh,
it. I have aunts and stuff like that that allowed that space to be a safe space, and it was an open conversation always about guides. Or we'd hop into a vehicle, and the roads would turn to crap, and it was like, okay, so and so show up and like guide us home, right? And so I've always trusted in that. The biggest part for me, I think, when I was younger was not understanding that I was physically feeling things within my body, and not knowing what that meant and where those boundaries can be placed. In growing, of course, I've learned to have a little bit more boundaries, also understanding that I can receive it, take the message, and then I can release it, right? When I was younger, I didn't understand that I could release it. I was like, oh, I can take this from you and I can hang on to it. And then it's like, but now what do I do with it? So definitely evolution of growing and releasing and being able to receive the messages without having them overwhelm me, I guess. So yeah,
oh,
still not a big fan of big groups.
right.
Um, but I'm okay with smaller groups still. So yeah.
That's well, I've heard a lot of younger women who are kind of it's a struggle for them because they're not sure how to they're getting receiving messages, but they're not sure how to move forward with that. So they're kind of stuck and some get a little afraid of what's
Yeah.
happening. So what would you recommend to them to find their right energy for what they're receiving?
I think the biggest part is really trusting themselves, right? And setting those boundaries. Boundaries are key. Boundaries with yourself, boundaries with other people, boundaries with spirit guides, all of that, right? Their boundaries are super important to understanding who you are.
Oh, I
Um,
agree.
and I think that is the biggest thing. And then just really trusting. And, like even the trainings and the courses and all of that, it's, I think, very key to take what resonates
Yeah.
and leave the rest,
Okay.
right? And that's the thing is I've had a couple times where I've hit an edge and somebody has said something and it was like, but that doesn't resonate for me. And so I've sat with it and it's like, okay, is this ego
Mhm.
or is this just genuinely how the energy resonates with me?
Yeah.
Right? So yeah. For example, I use my body as a pendulum quite often for yeses and nos, for supplements, for when I work with equine, things like that in canine. And I saw a video once and it was like, well, your yes has to be a forward.
Oh,
And I was like, ever since I was little, my yes has been a backwards. So then I was like, okay, is this ego? Am I backwards? Am I wrong? And I had to sit with it. And I did for a while and realized, no, genuinely, my yes is a backwards.
oh,
So it's, um, yeah, I think just trusting yourself and then finding the people that resonate with you,
yeah.
right? The people that can hold space without opinion
Oh, yeah.
and just let you share where you're at and let you feel like you're okay with where you're at.
Oh, yeah. That's amazing. When you say boundaries, quite often people look at it that in a negative, you know, like, oh, she set her boundaries, like as if not being approachable.
Yeah,
They don't look at it like it's a healthy place to be when
it
you
is.
set some healthy boundaries.
Yeah.
Mm.
it's setting your worth,
Right. Oh,
right? Instead of viewing it as something else. It boundaries are setting, I'm worthy of
yeah.
this. I'm worthy of peace within, right?
Yeah.
Because
Oh,
we
that,
the world is chaotic, right? There's
oh,
always chaos. There's always chaos within too, right? But if we have those boundaries, it allows for us to be able to settle in at moments when we really need to for peace.
yeah. That's so important. I've been learning that myself lately. I've set a lot of boundaries.
Oh, I am not a pro. I am still evolutionary. I am still human. I still have my moments. And if I ever think that I have fully achieved and come to like the mastery of it all,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I've excelled and no longer on this earthly plane at that point, maybe. But yeah, until then, I will continually be growing and moving
Yeah.
through the human being and the human doing, right?
Right. Absolutely. I mean, you continue to learn every day. You could be 90 years old and still learning
Yeah,
because circumstances happen and it gives you a lesson.
yeah.
It's amazing the growth but like setting healthy boundaries through your journey is
Mhm.
important. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's lovely. I'm in awe with you, Charlene.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you're such a peaceful woman and lovely to talk to. Um, so what sparked your interest within your career? Like I know you mentioned your mom
Yeah.
was pretty open. But was there anything else that sparked your interest in what you're doing today?
Um, I think that like the opportunities are limitless in what I do, because of continual evolution and my heart desire to continue growing. Um, I think that it was really just that light bulb moment of recognizing that I could hold space for others, right? It's like I have mentors and people that I turn to, and then I can hold space for someone and be their mentor,
Yeah,
but then they can turn around and mentor somebody else, right? And I love that aspect of things. Um, and I think it was just this inner peace and calling that it was like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. It wasn't, I never set, when I took all of my trainings, I never set out to assist anybody else. I was selfish at that point. It was like I had some traumas and some dark things that kept popping up, and it was, I need to shift and heal this. I recognize that some of this is self-sabotage and all of those things. And then I started sharing and recognizing that, yeah, I could hold space for others. And I've been tapped into my intuition and tapped into what the messages are that are coming through my body. And so it allows that energy to flow from universal through me to the client so that they can be their own healer, right? Because I'm not the person doing the
yeah,
things, right? I'm just the holder of space, as I what I like to call it, right? I'm not a person for labels.
yeah,
When somebody's like, "Oh, what do you do? What does an energy session with you look
yeah,
like?" Like, "Oh, they're ever changing."
yeah.
I had a client the other day who's been seeing me for a couple of years, and she was like, "That one was next level." I'm
Oh,
like, "I know, I don't know what happens, right?" Um, yeah, I have a bunch of labels behind, right? But I really, a friend actually introduced me to this before, and it's like, who are you? And like, where do you come from? And it's like, I am light and I am darkness. I am love. I am romantic. I'm resilient. I am in movement and I'm in stillness, right? And I come from oil and water and horse hooves and puppy nose kisses and calloused hands and hands of comfort, right? Like those are me,
yeah,
right? Yes, I have the other labels that go behind the Reiki master, all of those things that go with it. It's like yeah, somatics, craniosacral,
Yeah.
death do death doula. Like it's like you add in meditation, all of those things. It's like I have all of those, but all of those are for me first, and they allow me to hold space and integrate for my clients to be able to come home to themselves.
Yeah. Oh, that's so with your workshops, or do you do courses or do you do both?
I do both. Yeah, I this year for 2025, I have kind of slightly backed out of, I'll say, myself organizing some of the events.
Oh, okay.
Um, just because my plate has become quite full, and I'm very grateful to that. So if someone comes to me and says, "Hey, Shar, I've got a group of ladies and we want to do a moon circle, or we want to do this or that type of ceremony," or even if it's just one-on-one. I've had a couple just approach me just for one-on-ones. I am 100% all in for those things. And I've got lots of trainings actually happening this year.
Oh,
So I have three different levels of crystal courses. I've done it's like over a 10-hour course. For one of my crystal ones, I do crystal grid classes. I wrote my own manual for a crystal, like my crystal empowerment class.
oh, nice.
And I've actually been approached to do some mentorship this year. So I am just in the process of launching a 12-month mentorship
Oh my
from a couple
goodness.
clients that have asked. So hence why I still really love my events, right? I love doing um, like the equinoxes and the solstices and the moon circles, right? Those are watching the clients and the community that comes together. I love witnessing that and holding space. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna let those who are called to it reach out and know that I'm here to hold space when they want to. But yeah, my focus right now is on my clients, and the individual sessions that I'm having are so impactful and so profound right now. I'm so proud of my clients.
Oh,
And yeah, doing some of this mentorship and then some of these trainings. I'm doing a couple Reiki trainings and some crystal training and stuff too. So yeah,
oh,
and then
that's
I run an acreage, right? My husband is gone and parts of the time. And so yeah, I've got six animals, three dogs, three
oh my
cats, and an
goodness.
acreage that I need to also tend to. So, and the farm girl in me needs to
Yeah,
make sure that it's all ta taken care of. So
I would
yeah.
imagine. Yeah, that's fantastic. So do you do retreats?
I do mini retreats. I have done bigger retreats. I've done like a couple of retreats with like 33 women. I'm not into that anymore. I really like the small ones.
Yeah.
And then I also do a couple of mini ones even here at Sacred Forest Acres.
Um,
So in the summer, we have a cabin on site. And normally people will just stay in the cabin. And then, so I've done like a couples retreat
oh,
to do that there. I've done a one-on-one retreat where she just wanted some authentic her time. And so we've done that. I've done just like a girls group, girls
yeah.
ladies night, um, birthing and motherhood ceremonies.
Oh
So
my
yeah,
goodness.
it's
Oh,
there's been a few things that, yeah, as long as you're good with the animals being here, yeah. The
oh,
Sacred Forest Acres is here to hold space as well.
oh
So yeah.
my goodness. Well, you have to kind of speak more about the birthing ceremony. Like
Yeah, so
that's
that one was I've done a couple actually just for really getting mom into readiness for
uh,
motherhood, right? And that celebration of transition that occurs. Um, Everyone really focuses on baby, right? And sometimes mom gets forgotten.
yeah.
So my transition into being a mom, he's gonna turn 20 here. It's like
Wow.
It was a big transition, right? And I think it needs to be honored and celebrated. And I'm was very honored when I was asked once again to do those things. And as you can tell, I get asked for certain things and I just go for it, right? It's
Right
like,
on.
okay, sure, let's do this,
Oh,
right?
that's
And
excellent.
I sit in meditation and get whatever channeling I need to get for whatever needs to happen, and we roll with it.
Oh, that's amazing. It sounds almost similar to like a divine feminine healing,
Mm,
you
yeah,
know, for the preparing the woman for motherhood.
yeah, no,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
It's
Do
the
you
body is a
practice a lot
huge,
of those?
pardon?
Sorry, do you teach a lot of those sessions?
I haven't done a whole bunch. No. It's just more kind of when I'm asked to do so. I've done kind of a handful of them. So
Oh,
yeah, they're near and dear to my heart. And
yeah.
even with clients, right? Like I've done um, all ages. I've done, I've went from pregnancy to working on mom to when mom didn't even realize that she was pregnant
Oh, wow.
to, infant sessions after. And yeah, I love that. I have families, whole families that come and see me.
Oh,
Sometimes they see me in groups, sometimes I get one-on-one and
yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
I
amazing.
love that part, right? It's that vibration of one person working on themselves just vibrates out, and the rest of the family is like, hey, I want some of that too.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm sure
Yeah.
a lot of pregnant mothers would be, especially for their first pregnancy,
Mhm.
would love more information on that or know that that's even an option out there, you know, to have those birthing ceremonies to,
Yeah.
you know, feel special, you
And
know.
to know that, like, even with the energy side of things, that, like, it's non-invasive. There's no, I know sometimes they're even nervous for a massage unless you have a prenatal massage, right? It's like there's no aspect of energy work that is harmful or has ill intent, right?
Yeah,
And so it's just good for mom and baby and for dad too, right? Like it's a big thing. It wasn't ever something that I thought that again, I'm only basing off of like where I wanted things and where I needed things and giving that support in that aspect that I received and then amplifying it with the
yeah.
gifts I have.
Oh, that's so nice. That's actually probably pretty it's comforting for some women to find out that there's actually those options out there. You know, it's I don't
hmm
see too much of it advertised. Um,
Yeah.
that that's a service or it's a ceremony or anything that's special spiritually for them. So I'm sure that would
No, for sure.
uh, I'm sure those that are listening to this podcast will be grateful to know that those are options, you know, because they're scared too for their first pregnancy and,
Yeah,
you know, knowing that there's something out there that can support them spiritually. That's wonderful.
definitely. And I think even like those with loss, right? Like there's ceremony that can come and bring comfort even after loss, right? Of an infant and stuff too, right? Or a pregnancy. So yeah, it's something like I said that I don't advertise it a whole bunch because it's more just those who know me and
Yeah,
then it gets kind of shared out that there's a sacredness, I think, to
yeah,
knowing it, right?
that's true.
Holding that space.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's wonderful. I'm so glad that you spoke to it because I honestly didn't even know you did that either. So I learned
I think
something new
even
with this.
on my website, there's like one picture maybe of like
Oh,
a group, and that was a big group. I think there was like 30 of them that come to the mom's blessing, right? But yeah, it was really, really neat to do that, right? And then of course we give her gifts that she gets to take when she's in that process of birthing too, which is cool. So yeah.
Oh, that's nice. Wonderful. Um, so I'm just going to ask you a couple more questions here. So m- with what you know now, in your life, what would you have, what kind of advice would you have given you younger Charlene? Like little tiny Charlene, 4 or 5 years old, just starting school.
Uh, You know, that's a that's a different question for me.
Yeah,
Because I truly, in my heart, believe that everything happens for a reason. Um, Even the hard stuff, right? Even the really hard stuff. It all brings me to who I am today.
yeah,
And so, if anything, it would just be to embrace life, right? It as it comes, and that it ebbs and it flows, and it's a beautiful journey, even the hard stuff, right? It's none of us go through life unscathed, right? And I also view that like no one's trauma is more than another's, right? It's how we each handle and deal and the support that we have and all of that. And it's in my belief, our soul contract that we've signed to walk this journey. And so I think I would just tell her, yeah, embrace it and know how loved you are by your higher guides and yourself, right? And yeah, that would be probably the biggest is just embrace.
yeah. That's so important. Yeah, younger kids don't understand that part.
Hmm.
They look at a bigger picture that isn't so spiritual,
Yeah.
when they're growing up and feel like they have to make decisions, like especially when they're graduating, to know everything and know their whole path. And,
Yeah.
because you got one shot at it. But the truth is, you have many chances. You know,
No,
yeah. You have
exactly. We
lots
say
of
that
opportunity.
all the time to our son, right? It's like if you do something that you love, you never work a day in your life,
Oh, I love that.
right? Like that's if you were doing something that you love, that's all that matters.
Oh, that's so cool. I love that saying.
Yeah.
There's also another one I like called if you feel like you're a blessing, or if you feel blessed, then be a blessing.
Mm. Hmm.
And,
Yeah.
and that's like holding space for others, you know,
Yeah.
when they need you or they need to talk to somebody or, just
Yeah.
need someone to just listen.
Exactly. And I think the love yourself like you love others is
Yeah.
key, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Self-worth, self-esteem, learning how to love, like self-love.
yeah.
All that's so important. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish I knew more about that when I was in high school. And that goes back to the Ozarks and I mean,
No, my dear.
but yet no, we didn't have the options or anything like that back then. But yeah, now that I do know, then you can go and you can heal your past. You can heal those
Mhm.
traumas. You can, so it's important for the younger generation to understand that it's okay to love yourself and put yourself first and to go
Yeah.
with your heart, you know.
And I think it's neat to have the perspective and awareness to be able to step back and recognize that even those things that we don't like or that make us uncomfortable, they're there for a reason.
Yeah.
And normally only for a season.
Yeah.
And then we move through it, right?
Mhm.
Um, and then there's the gift of, you know, I've done it with my timeline of my life, right? It's like putting things on paper and everything that I perceived as a negative goes below, and everything that I perceive as a positive goes above. And there is a correlation of like every perceived negative, there was three positives that come from it somewhere along that timeline that correlates back to it.
Oh, wow.
And I think that is just that perspective of um, how we continually are evolving, right? Even if we might feel like we're stuck or we're in stagnation, and it's like, no, there's a reason that you're sitting there, or setbacks, right? It's like a couple of years ago, I had a pretty good setback, and I was like, okay, universe,
Yeah.
what are we doing? Like, I was gung ho, I was ready, like, and then you just literally put me on my butt.
Yeah.
And then when I sat with it, I was like, oh, okay, now I really want it.
Yeah.
So like, look out, here we go. Right? Like once I was back on my feet, it was let's do this, right? So I think that's um always just that thing, right? And you can have those outside cheerleaders,
Yeah.
right? Those external ones. But the internal one is the one. So it's shutting off sometimes the outside so that you can hear the inside.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Not
good.
always easy.
Yeah, that's for sure. Man, I'm still trying to figure it out.
I have my moments.
Yeah. Menopause threw me for a complete loop, but anyways.
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, and when you're a parent too, there's different stages of that you're
Oh,
like, okay, yeah, I need to step back and look at this.
absolutely. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I've got one last question for you. Um, so what would you say to say a woman came to one of your sessions and was struggling with certain changes that were happening in her life and she had to find herself starting over. And so what would you give her as advice to conquer all her anxiety with that change?
Well, when the anxiety is there for a reason. I
Yeah.
mean, I know I've kind of said that a couple times. Um, and that knowing that her anxiety is okay,
Yeah.
right? And then I think sitting and navigating where is that coming from, right? Like where is it where is that root part of it coming? I know lots of times, even with my crystal classes and stuff too, someone's like, okay, this is what's the issue is.
Yeah.
And then once we actually step out of that, looking at that's the issue,
Yeah.
lots of times when we build that container, those things kind of fall apart. And it's like recognizing where it's maybe stemming from, what aspect is really truly firing that anxiety. And then knowing that it's okay to have it. And then how do you move through that? And like, what tools have you tried, right? Because there's so many tools out there that we can all access. And some of them are just within, right? But it's knowing what works for you, and what works for one client is not going to work for the next client. What worked for me isn't going to work for all my clients either,
Yeah.
right? Um, and then too, it's like I'm not so um I'm humble enough, I guess I should say, to recognize if I hit a block, I can say, hey, A, I'll either get back to you, or B, try this person or this thing or whatever, right? If it's not me either, right? Yeah, I'm honored when clients choose to work with me. And I think that it's always ever evolving, and there's no cut and paste for it's like, okay, this person's in transition, they're in anxiety, this works.
Yeah.
Because that's not
Yeah.
how it works, right? That's where it's like that no one's trauma is more than another's because of how we deal with things, right? It's like maybe they had childhood trauma, and so that anxiety is stemming from stuff that happened there, right? Or past life stuff. And or it's like, no, this is genuinely here now in this present moment. I am now having anxiety because of this.
Right.
And it's like, okay, well, let's work through this so you don't create a pattern to later on have a story in your cellular structure
Yeah.
that is causing shoulder pain or something like that, right? Because yeah, the body talks to us, right? It's the emotions like to hide within our cellular structure and
Yeah.
create disharmony and dis-ease and create stories. And sometimes it doesn't need a story. Sometimes it just needs to sit there for a little bit and then move, right? There's a reason that it's giving us that, right? There's that safety thing of aspect. It's like, oh, driving through the town and you're hit all the red lights and you're like, why did I hit all the red lights? Well, maybe the universe stopped you from having an accident further ahead,
Yeah.
right? It's like, what is the reason for this that's coming up that's causing you to pause, causing you to stop, right? What's actually behind it?
Man, there should be a course that spells it out, just like you said, for everyone that struggles with road rage.
Right?
Honestly.
Yeah, it was like, do you realize the universe is probably trying to save you from something
Yeah.
later, right? It's like a deer jumps out or something, right? It's like, yeah,
Oh,
it's 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 always there's always signs, right? I always joke, it's like come down the rabbit hole with me because there's this beautiful thing that's always behind it, right? The body's talking, the universe is talking. It's just a matter of slowing down enough to listen. And I don't listen all the time. There are moments that I don't. But then I have the choice as a human being doing to stop and choose again.
oh,
Right? And I think that's knowing that that power is within us to stop and choose again. If it's a pattern, if it's a situation, if it's people, whatever it is in our lives, we have the power to stop and choose again.
that's great. Great information, Charlene.
No, thank you.
I want to thank you so much for being on our podcast. I really
Well, thank
appreciate it. And I hope that we can invite you back and maybe talk for on season 2.
I would definitely love that. I appreciate everything that you are doing in building this beautiful community and all of the aspects that fall under Three Moons, Three Souls.
Oh,
So
thank you
it
so much. I appreciate that, Charlene.
wonderful. I look forward to chatting with you again soon.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for joining us at the Three Moons, Three Souls podcast.